This is probably the most controversial video I've ever made. Maybe not. Maybe I'll make something down the road. Who knows? I also, if this does blow up, I'm going to be really annoyed because I think the other stuff I made is pretty good, especially the one I made about the DJI Ronin 4 Mini. Okay, if this blows up, I'm gonna be so mad. I'm gonna lose my mind. But there has been a question I think we always ask ourselves, every year, yes, maybe every other year, who knows. But there is a question that I have seen, floating around the interwebs, and that is, are our smartphones becoming a camera replacement? And, I want to throw in my opinions, my thoughts, and actually an answer to that question. And that is, it will never be. Hell no. It will never replace my camera. It will never replace my FX3. It will never even replace my film cameras because you can't shoot film on this, obviously. But I know people have said it's just as good as this camera, is just as good as that camera. And I think that is kind of, how do I say this without being like kind of mean, but it's kind of total BS in my opinion, because although the cameras on our phones are getting better, they don't compete or compare to something like a 7R Mark V or a Nikon Z6 Mark II or even a Leica Q3. However, though, I do see our iPhone 16 becoming equivalent to an everyday carry camera. That's kind of like maybe a jab to some people who have everyday cameras like the Ricoh GR300 or 3X, sorry. Although like they're not even available anymore. So I thought I'd make this video kind of giving my input about why I think it's a really good everyday camera or even a secondary camera for, if you're going on photo shoots. I wouldn't use this camera to have deliverables, but it would be good to have just to do like kind of stuff and be like, oh, here's a cool photo I took of you because you like it looks cool or whatever. But I do see this as a really like a good like everyday camera, and we can kind of start right off the bat on explaining why I think this is a really good everyday camera. And first things first, it's your phone. You have this with you all the time. It's your form of contact with the world, with your friends, your family, checking your emails and all that stuff. So, I already see, like a good reason for it being an everyday carry. Another thing is that this is a 42 megapixel camera sensor. Why was that so difficult for me to say? But I want to put an asterisk on that because that's going to be one of its flaws, and we're going to discuss that a little bit later in this video. But yeah, it's a 42 megapixel camera. I mean, my 7R5 is a 61 megapixel, so like, I don't want to compare it because this is still apples to oranges. But in the sense of like sensor technology, it's about the same. Also, at the same time, Sony's camera sensors, they make Apple camera sensors, so they're almost exactly the same. So, but my point is, it's a 42 megapixel camera. You can shoot RAW files. You can shoot, what we would say is like an extra fine JPEG. You can shoot JPEG Max, which uses the full 42 megapixels, which is really cool. So you have much more resolution. Also, I wrote notes, by the way. You can film in 4K at 120 frames per second. That's the max. And you can also shoot at 1080p if you want to save storage room. You can do raw footage. It's the Apple ProRes RAW. And then you can do log profile. So if you're someone who loves color grading, you have that capabilities now to shoot in RAW, in log, and then color grade later. Before I go further in this video, I do want to make it clear this is for the iPhone 15 and 16. I believe the 14 and later don't have these features. And also this, I did say smartphones, but this is more of a kind of Apple comparison. But anyways, back to my points. You can do, like, I guess you would say you can do bokeh on this phone. There is a portrait mode that allows you to do, f-stops up to, I think, 1.4, and then you can obviously increase it. I think the max is 16. I could be wrong. But the thing is, it is artificial. It's not actually like the lens blade apertures closing in. It's just really, or opening wide. It's artificial. It's using kind of like what Lightroom does when you use the lens blur effect in there. So that's another flaw, which we'll get into later. You can shoot cinematic, which is like, I guess the best way to do is you shoot at 24 frames per second. It puts the image stabilization active on, and then you can obviously like subject lock in a way on something, and then you can also do focus pull. So like you can change your focusing with a touch. Obviously you can already do that in standard, but when you're editing that video, you can also then do that later. So, which is really cool. That's, for those who want to kind of have a little bit more cinematic videos. They have this really cool thing called the photographic style. Back in the phones, it used to be just changing from vivid, black and white, neutral, or something like that. Now you have more options that you can kind of like skim through. You can go from like having like, was it vibrant, neutral, emotional, or moody and stuff like that. And then you can also adjust, I believe they said you can adjust the luminance of it as well as like the saturation of it, and then the intensity. So that's kind of really cool to have, because then if you're someone who uses the Fujifilm X100 or a Leica Q series, they have like kind of built-in like film simulations or a color profile. You have that now in your hands, and then you can change the way you're photographing something. So if you're photographing a really beautiful landscape, you can change it to be more vibrant or very moody, or if you want to make like, I guess, more black and white photos, you have now more options to do that. So I think that's really cool. You don't have to then take your photo and go to a third-party app and edit in there and then post. You're reducing your steps. In the conversation of another feature added is the cleanup feature. Sorry, not clear up, cleanup. I believe this is only available for the 15 to 16. It might be just only for the 16. I would have to double check on that, but I think it's available for both. But what it is pretty much you're using a kind of like a generative AI that you see in Lightroom to remove something in the image of your whatever you took. So like I've used it before where I took a photo of someone, but there's like a trash can in the background or some person I don't want there. You highlight that object or subject that you don't want in there, and it will remove it using AI and obviously how Lightroom does it. So that's really cool. However, like I said, it's only available for the latest phones. It's not available for the earlier phones because I think you have to have Apple Intelligence to be able to to do that feature. So it's kind of a little bit of a bump in the road. And then lastly, like third-party apps there's more of them. They're getting better, and third-party apps allow you to have, I guess, basic function controls that you would have in a camera. A good example is Final Cut. When you're filming any kind of video and stuff, you now have, I believe, the capabilities to control ISO. I know you can control shutter speed, but you can also control stuff like white balance, so you can adjust if you need to. And I know there's more apps, just not Final Cut, but there are other apps that you can use, which I think is really cool, because like back then you just only had the camera on your phone, and that's it. You take a photo and that's about it. I know sometimes you can like pull that footage from your phone and go to like something like DaVinci Resolve or Premiere Pro and adjust it there, but sometimes the files don't transfer correctly. So there's so many things. There's so many other things, I guess you would say, that make this a really good everyday camera, because it's always on you. So it's kind of it's always there if you ever need it. But I know there are a few things that make it not such a great everyday camera, and for my first reason why it was a good everyday camera, it's also the first reason why it's not a good everyday camera, because it is your phone. Your text messages on it, your phone calls are on it, your FaceTimes, your other apps. So there's a lot of distractions on this phone. So let's say you're filming something or you're taking a photo and you get a phone call, or maybe you're well liked and your Instagram is blowing up. So it's a big distraction as it is, especially, like I said, especially if you're filming something and you get a phone call, it's going to interrupt your filming, which it's a really bad thing to do, especially if you're doing something really cool, like you're filming like a certain moment that's happening. Back into the conversation about 42 megapixel, I said I put an asterisk because it's not a constant 42 megapixel, and it's not like how you would for my 7R5. This is a 61. It's a constant 61. The only time it changes is if I go in APS-C mode and it goes into like 31 megapixel. But whenever I switch lenses on here, it's a constant 61 megapixel. However, for this, when you go from 1x to 2.5 to 5, I think x, it changes the megapixel resolution, because what it does is that it's going into crop mode pretty much. It's cropping down on the sensor, so you're going from 42 to 24 to 15 to 12, etc. So it's not constant. Which is, for some people, you're not really gonna zoom in like you would on the 7200, but if you're zooming in a little bit just past 2.5x, you start to lose detail. So that's kind of a setback, which, like I said, I don't see people trying to use it, because I know, like, for everyday cameras, you're really taking a picture of the moment in front of you, not something far away. So, it's this or that. Back to bokeh, the portrait mode, I personally hate it. It's too artificial for me. I'm a portrait photographer, and I've done wedding photographies, and having that creamy bokeh, because of the lens, because of the aperture blades, is amazing. I don't think it's easy to replicate in the iPhone. So it's, it's, I guess, like I said, it is a challenge. It is something that, I don't see myself ever wanting to use. So it's, because it's just too artificial for me. I don't like it. Other people love it. That's them. That's fine by me. Another thing is storage. Like I said, this is your phone. You have other things on this, So if you don't have the bigger phone storage, you can fill that phone up really fast, especially if you're shooting like the raw files. It's going to fill up fast, and it'll tell you, like, it'll be like, hey, like, you want to film this in Apple ProRes RAW, you can only film it for 5 minutes, because then after that your storage is filled up, or you're going to have this many gigabytes left. So that's a problem. I know there's a workaround it by like plugging in a dongle, like a docking station, but nobody wants that really. I know some people enjoy it because it's like, oh, I take a photo and it goes right into that SD card or that external drive. But it makes your phone, you have this thing hanging at the bottom, and then you're also like, you're trying to make sure that doesn't fall off or disconnect. And then it also, like, I know people put like attachments on there so it sits in the back, but then it makes your phone clunky. I don't know, me personally, I just want to have this in my pocket. If I'm wearing pants, my pants are sometimes tight in the thighs because I got, little strong thighs. So that's a no for me, dog. But like I said, I know people said that's a workaround. For me, I don't want that. I already pay for iCloud storage, but my iCloud storage is really meant for like transferring files from my Mac Studio to my MacBook Pro or to my iPad. So like now it's filled with photos. So I'm just kind of like, great, I got to pay for more for a bigger size, and then it's another subscription and another subscription, So I know there's workarounds, but like for me personally, and maybe for other people, it's not going to work for them. And then I did like glorify third-party apps, but then that's also another thing. You need a third-party app to do certain functions that you can already do in your camera. I know for some people, like, especially if they want to like film something or capture something and then post, to have only a limited functions and then having to download an app to get, like I said, basic functions you would get on a camera can be tedious, because you're just like, great, now if I want to film something, I gotta open up my app and then adjust my settings and start filming. It's like, and it's not good, because like for my camera, like if it's a whole day I'm shooting and the weather's not changing, the lighting's not changing, the settings are already there. And even if I need to adjust settings, it's a simple like thumb movement I need to do. For your phone, you then like have to then make sure you tap the screen and adjust, but that's all you can do. Now you have to go to a third-party app, then adjust from there. So although third-party apps are really good, they are also a big setback, because like I said, you now have to install this app. You might have to sign up for an account. Some apps are not free, so you have to then pay for a subscription. And some apps don't offer a month basis. They do only in like an annual basis. So you're kind of finding yourself in a situation where you're like, I might as well just buy a small everyday camera. And I find myself in those situations. I mean, granted, when I take photos on my phone, it's like for more intimate moments with my friends and family, or more a moment where I just want to, like, I don't have my camera, I can just take it from there. And the only third-party app I have is literally Lightroom and like collage apps. So when I want to make collages, but You know, for me, I don't dive into those third-party apps unless I really want to kind of like learn about them. But like I said, it becomes tedious that I have to then access that app to get certain functions that my camera already has. And I've already said that like 3 times. So just want to get my point across. But like I said, although the phone has its flaws and it has its like I guess you would say perks, you know, it's not a camera replacement, but it could be a good substitute for an everyday camera. Because I know like something like the Fuji X100 that thing is obviously sometimes not available because it sells out really fast, and then aftermarket they're selling it for double the price. You're like, I don't want to buy that. And then something like really good like the Ricoh GR, it's like the GR3X or the GR, you know, the small one I'm talking about. Those are also unavailable, and people are selling them for double the price they are on aftermarket. And then, you know, Sony's point and shoots like the RX107 is also still unavailable. You can find them like, you know, aftermarket, but they're not really doubling the price. They're also not doing a used price. They're still selling at retail value, which I think is a scam. But like I said, these cameras that are really good everyday cameras are right now not available because of, you know, the popularity. People are buying them constantly, and then you're waiting for them, and sometimes you don't get that model. You get an email saying like it's unavailable, or, you know, we have to put you on the next list, on the next batch. So yeah, your phone is a good substitute right now, but I know down the road there's going to be newer models, you know, or newer, I guess you would say, newer models being available. But you know, right now at this moment, this is something that you're always going to carry with you. There are actually like really good photographers who are very iPhone based, or you know, the Samsung Galaxy based or Google Pixel based. You know, I've seen their work, and they capture really great photos, and that's what they specialize. You know, but it's not, like I said, it's never going to replace our cameras. It's never going to replace my 7R5. It's never going to replace my FX3 camera. I mean, this is a cinema camera. This is a high resolution, you know, photo professional camera. It's never going to replace anything. But like I said, it is a good everyday camera because you're going to have it with you all the time. Like I said, this is, you know, not very controversial, but maybe it is. Someone might be mad in the comments and be like, you're wrong, or you're so dumb for this, but that's fine. That's part of doing this, is saying something that nobody agrees with you, but that's okay, because I like doing these videos. Anyways, hope you find this video very interesting. Definitely like and subscribe. Comment down below. What do you think? Am I stupid or deranged? Please don't call me stupid. Please don't. But anyways, yeah, cool. Hope you like this video. I'll definitely talk to you guys soon. And yeah, I'm gonna go shoot more photos on my actual camera. I'm just kidding. You're probably gonna see more stuff on this because I carry it with me everywhere I go. But anyway, I'm just kidding. This is my pride and joy. This is my mini. Anyways, I will catch you guys later, and bye. See you later.